Today is the first day of Rosh Chodesh Adar, and tomorrow on Shabbat will be the second day of Rosh Chodesh. And this Shabbat, we're going to take out 3 scrolls of Torah. This kind of situation happens very rarely. Every year we have at least one day when 3 Torah scrolls are taken out. Who can tell me right away on which day we'll always have 3 Torah scrolls? Of course, that means we're going to read from 3 different places, 3 different passages. This is going to happen every year on Simchat Torah. When we finish the reading of the Torah, we take out 3 Torah scrolls. That is, we read the end of the Torah, of course, the Parshat Vizot HaBracha, when Moshe blesses the Jewish people before dying. So this Parsha is very appropriate for Simchat Torah at the end of Sukkot and the end of the holiday season. This is the last of the holidays, at least the biblical holidays. It makes a lot of sense that we also finish with a blessing and with the Ptira of Moshe Rabbeinu. And of course, the temple was also inaugurated around that time on Sukkot. And Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, also blessed the Jewish people before they left. So it's an excellent parsha to finish with when the year is finishing. Of course, in agricultural season, the year finishes around more or less Rosh Hashanah. Right after that, there is much less activity during the winter time. And in fact, the holidays also, all the biblical holidays are from spring till fall, starting with Pesach, with Chag HaMatzot, and ending with Sukkot and Shmini Atzeret. So, logically speaking, it's I mentioned this before, it's like one long day that starts with sunrise or with the dawn and ends with the sun going down. So the sunrise is equivalent to Pesach, and the sun going down is equivalent to Sukkot. When longer nights and shorter days start, and when most of the activity ceases, especially in the times when people generally lived according to agricultural cycle, and also there was no electricity, so at nights, when the nights are long, there was very little activity, and so in the winter there was much less activity. So the only holidays I mentioned in a different place, which was a later holiday, which was added right in the middle of winter, is Hanukkah, of course, which is the night type of holiday. Then the idea is that even in the darkness, in the times of persecution, there's always a little bit of light that can disperse a lot of darkness, and that's why the main mitzvah of Hanukkah is at night. So coming back to the 3 scrolls of Torah that we read on Simchat Torah, this is obvious since we have to finish the entire 5 books of Moshe, which ends with, of course, the death of Moshe. And then we start reading immediately from the beginning. The same day, we immediately start reading in order to never stop. It's a never-ending cycle. So we start Parshat Bereshit immediately as we finish the Parshat Vizot HaBracha. And then also there is a 3rd Torah scroll that we have to read from, because on every holiday we read from Parshat Pinchas a passage that has to do with the offerings of that holiday. So on every holiday we take out 2 Sifrei Torah, and on Simchat Torah we take out 3 Sifrei Torah. But there are also other days of the year when in theory we could take out 3 Sifrei Torah. One possibility is when on Hanukkah, if Rosh Chodesh falls on Shabbat. This year it didn't happen, but if it does, then we have a day when we have to read about the weekly parsha, of course, on that Shabbat, and also the Hanukkah passage, and also the Rosh Chodesh passage. So 3 Sifrei Torah have to be taken out. And the other possibilities when 3 Sifrei Torah are taken out is when we have what's called special 4 weeks. The Shulchan Aruch, our main code of law, starts the laws of Purim. The introduction kind of to the laws of Purim is these 4 special weeks. Most of them fall on Adar, but 1 or 2 can fall not on Adar, and that is the last one can fall in theory on the 1st of Nisan, and the first one can fall on the end of Shvat. This year, all 4 are going to fall on Adar, all 4 special parshiyot. What is going to happen is this weekly reading tomorrow on Shabbat. I'm making this lesson on the first day of Rosh Chodesh, which falls on Friday. So tomorrow will be second day of Rosh Chodesh, the first day of Adar, which also is Shabbat. And that's when we're going to read a special passage for the first of these 4 special weeks, special Shabbatot. Then there will be another special passage the next Shabbat. And then we're going to skip. One Shabbat will not have any special passages, although it's going to be Shushan Purim. So in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem, then we're going to be a lot of special laws on that Shabbat, the 2 weeks from now. But outside of the cities that are very old, ancient, walled cities, in regular places where most Jews live, that Shabbat is not going to be a special Shabbat in some sense, that anything special will be read on it or anything special will be done on it. And then at last, there will be 2 Shabbatot in a row, when again special parshiyot will be read and second Torah scroll will be taken out. The last of these Shabbatot will fall exactly 1 day before Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Rosh Chodesh Nisan this year falls on Sunday, just like Pesach is going to fall on Sunday, which has its own special laws, of course, when Pesach falls right after Shabbat, but we're not going to discuss that right now. So we have all 4 Shabbatot falling on the Chodesh Adar, our happiest month, the month of our deliverance. So the first of these Shabbatot falls, of course, Rosh Chodesh is also a Shabbat, so therefore there will be 3 Torah scrolls. The first parsha we'll be reading is the normal parsha of that week, which is Truma. I discussed a little bit about it on the previous lesson this week. And then there will be a Torah scroll from which we're going to read about Rosh Chodesh. Since every time Shabbat falls on Rosh Chodesh, we have to take out another Torah scroll to read the passage about Rosh Chodesh, about the new moon. And at last, there will be a special passage that's specific for the Shabbat that's closest to Adar. Either it's on Adar like this year, or the last Shabbat of Shvat, right before Adar. If Rosh Chodesh wouldn't fall on Shabbat, we would be reading it on the Shabbat before Rosh Chodesh Adar. So that's what's called Parshat Shekalim. What is that? We happen to be reading it pretty soon anyway. We'll be reading it 2 weeks from now anyhow, as part of Parshat Kitisa. And that is, it talks about these special donations of half a shekel. I mentioned before that when Moshe came down from Sinai, he told the Jewish people to bring various donations to build the Mishkan, to build the tabernacle, and most of the donations were not fixed. A person could give gold or copper or special kinds of materials with special colors, but there was one material which every Jew had to give exactly the same amount, and that is half a shekel. Moreover, in the future also, every year, the Jewish people would be giving half a shekel, and that went for the needs of the temple. The service of the temple also costs money, so people had to donate for it. So that's the Mahatzit Hashekel, a special mitzvah that doesn't apply to us today, since we don't have the temple. The Torah predicted there will be a long time when we won't have the temple, and none of these laws will apply. But eventually these laws will be renewed. By the way, we do have a custom, a minhag, right before Purim, to give half of a coin that's common in that particular area. Half of $1, for instance, a $50. There is such a coin, by the way, in America, $50 coin. It's not very common. Quarters are much more common, but $50 coin can be obtained, and one can give. The custom of a lot of people is to give three coins right before Purim, and this is just a custom. It's not the Mahatzit Hashekel, the biblical Mahatzit Hashekel. It's just a custom in remembrance of the Truma, of whatever donations our people made then. So we give half of a coin that's. It doesn't really have to even be a specific coin that looks like half. It's just a nice thing, so that a nice reminder if it's a $50 coin. But if you give 2 quarters instead, or since the custom is to give 3 half coins, so it would be $1.50. If you want to give a dollar bill and 2 quarters, you also yotze. It's just a custom. This is not a real law. So in any event, by the way, some people actually try to estimate how much silver it was, half a shekel in those times, whatever it's equivalent to today, and actually give that amount of money. So that will be more than $1.50 then. Then it's a few dollars. The amount of money that half a silver shekel used to cost. You have to estimate something like close to 10 grams of silver, whatever the cost is at this moment. But like I said, this is not the common custom. The common custom is just to take half of whatever the coin is in that country. So in America, it would be $50. And like I said, we give 3 of these, just in remembrance that in our parsha it says 3 times the different types of truma. Zota truma, the word truma is mentioned 3 times. But in biblical times, the Jewish people every year would give actual half a shekel of silver, and when the temple was built, they also gave half a shekel of silver for the actual material. Most of the silver is just money, but in this case, it was the actual material of the temple. Where did almost all of it go? To the what's called adonim, the bases of the tabernacle. They were made. There were exactly 100 of them, and these bases were made from the silver that the Jewish people donated. And our sages instituted that before the month of Adar, this passage will be read from the Torah on Shabbat, the closest Shabbat to Adar. In this case, it's the first of Adar, when we're going to read it tomorrow. And the reason is because every year, whatever money was needed for the temple's services and upkeep would be collected before Nisan, before the first month, and used for the entire year. So in order to collect before Nisan, you need at least a month for the people to start doing it, basically. So the reminder is right before Adar, or on the first of Adar as this year, the parsha is read, and we remember that this is the time for collection of the half a shekel. And then the second parsha that we'll be going to be reading next week is about Amalek, because again, right before Purim, we remember how Amalek tried to destroy us then, and how a descendant of Amalek, Haman HaAgagi, he was from royal kings of Amalekites. They were called Agag, the kings of Amalek. So he tried to destroy us, and that's the parsha we read, Parshat Zechor, on the Shabbat right before Purim. And then, like I said, this year we're going to skip one Shabbat after Purim. Sometimes there's a Shabbat before Purim skip. Depends on what days of the week everything falls on. But this year, the Shabbat that's right after Purim, on Shushan Purim, is going to be skipped. And then we're going to read on Shabbat after that, Parshat Para. That's the special red cow, of course. And the reason we're reading that is because on Nisan, people just started purifying themselves, ritually purifying, so they could go to the temple and bring the korbanot and bring korban Pesach. And for that, you need ritual purity, and ritual purity requires sprinkling of the water with the ashes of the red cow. So that's why Parshat Para is read on Shabbat, closer to Nisan. And then the last Shabbat before Nisan, this year it's the day before Nisan, since Nisan falls on Sunday, as I said. So that Shabbat, we actually read the Parsha in the Torah, which we read recently in Parshat Bo, that Hashem says, it's basically the first mitzvah to the Jewish people, this is your first month. HaChodesh hazeh yalechem Rosh Chodeshim. This month will be your first month. The idea is, of course, that all our months are counted from Nisan. Nisan is a later name that came from Babylonia, from our exile, but the original name is the name of a holiday of spring or of times of barley crops. So this is the month from which we're going to count all other months. There are no specific names of months that the 5 books of Moshe mentions. Only the numbers after holiday of Aviv, Chodesh Aviv, meaning you start with that month, the month of Exodus, and if you want to say it's the third month, we're counting always from there. It's only the numbers, just like the days of the week, always counted from Shabbat. I mentioned this a number of times that we don't have proper names of the week. Like Monday, Tuesday, we'll have just, Sunday is the first day after Shabbat, Monday is the second day after Shabbat, etc. There's Shabbat, and all the other days are numbers. So the same way, there is Chodesh Aviv, and all the other months are numbers after that Chodesh. It could be that the Jewish people did have various months, names of the months that we don't know today. There is something in the book of Melachim, at least in the times of Shlomo HaMelech, there are 3 names of various months that are mentioned. And probably other months also had their proper names, but none of them were preserved. In the end, after Babylonian exile, as the Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud tells us, the Jewish people started using the same names as the non-Jews in Babel were using. So that's where the names like Nisan, the Iyar, Sivan, all of them come from Babylonia. And on this I'm going to end for today. I wish everybody a happy month of Adar. It's the happiest month. Mishe nichnas Adar marbim b'simcha. When Adar comes, we increase our happiness. Purim is going to be in 2 weeks. And of course, I wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom. And that we should only hear good news. And hope that the rest of the life hostages will be saved, will be redeemed, and Bezrat Hashem, that we should enjoy real peace in the future.